Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, welcome to week 2 of our study in our series, Ascend the Throne, where we're taking a look at the life of King David, the boy who would become King David, this young shepherd boy. And as we look at his life prior to taking the throne of being the king of Israel, and what God's done in his life and what he's done to follow God, and what led him to ultimately follow God's plan to become the king of Israel. Because what we know is this, that for every single one of us and for every single one of you watching the video, that God has a plan for your life that he wants you to follow. That like the place that God wants to call you is incredible. It's amazing, but you'll never get there unless you choose to follow him. And that's why we're looking at David's life, gleaning some wisdom and some incredible things that he did in his life to get him to the place that God wanted him to be. So tonight in week 2 that we've studied, we've looked at 1 Samuel chapter 18 verses 1 through 5. And what we've done, we've talked about friends, and we've looked at this friendship between David and King Saul's son, Jonathan. Okay, these two were incredible friends, and the Bible talks about this. And we're just going to jump right in and read those first 5 verses in chapter 18 of 1 Samuel. Starting in verse 1 of chapter 18, it says, "After David had finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. There was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. From that day on, Saul kept with him and wouldn't let him return home. And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself. Jonathan sealed the pact by taking off his robe and giving it to David, together with his tunic, sword, bow, and belt. Whatever Saul asked David to do, David did it successfully. So Saul made him a commander over the men of war, an appointment that was welcomed by the people and Saul's officers alike." Now, what we see here is the beginning of this friendship between David and King Saul's son, Jonathan. Now, some of you have friends that are close to you, and right now I just want you to take a moment and think about the 5 closest friends that you have, the 5 best friends that you have. Okay. Perfect. Okay, cool. You've probably got those people in mind. If not, that's okay. And I just want you to think about your friends, because as I think about the friends that I've had through the course of my life, there's a number of them. The friends that I have right now, I didn't know. Most of them I didn't know when I was younger, when I was in elementary school and middle school, and some of them even when I was in high school, okay? And my friend group has changed a lot, and it's changed a lot based on a lot of different things. In my preschool, my best friend was the kid who I played tag with on the playground. Well, that's changed. I couldn't tell you. I think his name was Dakota. I don't know. Dakota, if you're watching this, what up, man? Let's go get lunch. No, just kidding. And my friends group from elementary school has changed. We grew up, became adults. Things changed in our lives, and friend groups change. But one thing about that is that for every friendship that we've ever had, anybody has ever had, there's been a reason that you had that relationship, that friendship. There was a bond, something that united you, whether it was a sport or an interest, or you loved playing Fortnite together. Whatever it is that brings you together with a friend, there's something that brings you together and unites you as friends. Okay, and that's important because we are at our student group here at Fairfield Christian. We honestly believe that you can't do life alone. That you need people around you to share in this life with, that God didn't make you to be like this little island by yourself. No, God made you to connect with people so that together we can share the gospel better, okay? And if you're sitting there saying, well, I don't have any friends, I promise you this is the place. A student group, if you're watching this, a youth group is the place for you. And you need to check that out. You need to get connected there. You need to connect with some people who love Jesus. Because that's what we talked about tonight as we looked at the life of David and his friend Jonathan, is that godly friendships are the strongest. That was a big truth that we discussed in week 2 of the series. The godly friendships are the strongest. Okay, and then we just talked about some qualities of what godly friendship looks like and what it looks like to be a godly friend. A friend whose friendship is based on Jesus. Okay. The first thing that we talked about in a godly friendship is that you point each other to Jesus. That in a godly friendship, no matter what, if it's a tough time, guess what? we're going to point each other to Jesus. We're going to say, he's going to get us through this. He's going to be with us in this struggle, in this tough season. If it's a great time, we're going to celebrate what God is doing in our lives and in our friendships and in our walks with him. Okay? Godly friendships always point each other to Jesus. The second thing is very simple. It's just that they are there. That they are present, that they are, that there's an active connection in a friendship. Okay, if you stop texting, those five best friends that you thought about earlier, if you stop texting them, or you stopped calling them, or you stopped Snapchatting them today, it would be a travesty. Your friendship would end if you just cut off communication with them, and you just stopped showing up at their birthday parties, and you just stopped coming over to their house, and you wouldn't be friends any longer. And if you stopped Snapchatting them, you'd probably lose Snapchat streaks, and they'd be so upset with you. So upset. Okay? But they're present. They're there. They care about you enough to have a place in your life, to share in life with you, to make plans to hang out, to spend time with one another, to continually grow and stretch and build on your friendship and see what God's doing in each other's lives. As you choose to follow Jesus. And the third thing we talked about with godly friendships is just that they reflect Jesus no matter what. They reflect Jesus no matter what. That whether you've messed up or you have just reached the mountaintop of spiritual enlightenment, that you're just in this great place with Jesus. No matter if you're in the valley or you're on the mountaintop, that person is going to try and reflect Jesus to you. If you're struggling, they're going to try and share Jesus' love with you. If you're doing great, they're going to share Jesus' love with you. That they're going to try and reflect Jesus to you as friends, okay? That as friends, you are going to try and imitate the love of Jesus to that person. Our big idea for tonight is this. If you want to get to where God has called you, you have to have the right friends around you. If you want to get to where God has called you, then you have to have the right friends around you. Think about it like this, that God has you on a pathway. Once you accept Jesus and you choose to follow God and you become a Christian, that he has you on a pathway towards the place he has called you. That when the Spirit of the Lord, when God's Spirit came and rested with David, that when Samuel anointed him as king, that David was set on this path towards the throne room, that he was set on this path to become the king of Israel, to lead God's people. But that he never would have gotten there, that he never would have arrived there if he didn't have the right people around him. That Jonathan is one of these people that David needed around him to get him to that place. Okay? And the same is true for you and I, that we'll never get to the place that God wants us to be if we don't have the right people around us, if we don't have the right friends around us. Okay? Our first question is this: what kind of friendships do you want? Okay, most of us probably want good, healthy friendships where we're encouraged and we feel loved and accepted, right? Okay, we don't want negative friends. And the second question just falls in line with that. In comparison to what kind of friendships you want, what kind of friendships do you have right now? What kind of friends do you have in your circle right now? Our third question is this: how can you point your friends to Jesus? And the last one is this. It's a personal reflection question for you. How can you be a better friend? I know there's ways personally that I can be a better friend to some of my friends around me. But how can you be a better friend today? Is it not canceling a plan? Is it making plans? Is it just saying, hey, you are fantastic at this thing that God has called you to do, compliment them, what is it going to take for you to be a better friend today? Because the friendships that we have and the way we treat our friends is ultimately going to help us get towards the place that God is calling us. That if we have the right friends around us and the right people around us, it's going to make that journey to that place so much easier.